Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Whiskey Cavalier. A lot of interesting things in this episode. I love the fact is that we have, Will trying to bond with Jay, that being a big plot point in this episode. I love it. It's just kind of like, no, we should go hang out and this and that, and Jay's kind of like, no. I love even at the beginning mission because obviously Will handles things the way he does. It's apparently Susan and Frankie had gone out for pizza somewhere. Will's like, whoa. I had asked you both out when you said you were busy, and they're both like, ooh. He's like, that's super messed up. And I love, because obviously this deals with the fact is that Frankie kind of goes off and does her own thing, and so she kind of doesn't follow the whole command and everything like that. She kind of handles things her own way, so it's like, okay, Will had Jay use his gas to knock them out. And I love that when it comes to the whole situation, it's like, oh yeah, she's training Edgar and she's kicking his ass. He's like, yeah, see, you tired? Yeah, I figured you're tired. I love Standish kind of his smart ass approach, especially in that trying to be all tough and yeah, I'm winning when he's not at all. I love that. But also love that when it was all said and done, he's like, okay, so when I'm done with my training, can I ever run point on the mission? And Frankie's like, whoa, why are you asking Will? I'm co-captain in this situation. You're acting like he's just a pure leader of the team. And Standish just like, Will, you gonna back me up? He's like, yeah, no, and walks away. And it's like, you got my back on this, right? Susan's like, what? Yeah, I totally agree with that other thing you just said. And she's like, you think he's the captain of the team and leader of the team? She's like, what? No. And it's like, why is that? And Frankie wants to understand all that. And I really love Will kind of breaking it down. Essentially, he brings up using the example of him doing a youth league. In the situation of even if they don't win a championship, he kind of still congratulates them of hey, to kind of give them this accomplishment feeling of you still walked away with a trophy because you're the greatest, this and that. And you almost have Frankie be like, that's stupid. I'm not going to treat the team like that. They're adults. They're spies. They don't need their hands held like little kids. So there's that. Obviously, Will gets kidnapped when they're on their mission because, he tries to give Standish an opportunity to kind of keep up their cover while he's dealing with everything, and he ends up getting captured. I even love that even while he was being kidnapped, he's telling, oh, so who's behind the wheel? And Jay, is that you? And Jay's like, yeah, it's me behind the wheel. It's like, so where did you learn how to drive from your dad? And Jay's like, you're seriously trying to use this as an opportunity to get to know me? It's actually kind of sad because Jay was one of the reasons why he doesn't want to, because obviously he has the whole thing of he doesn't really get close to people. He does to a certain extent by bugging them. He keeps a distance while also overhearing everything. That's kind of his way of kind of keeping some distance between him and people. But another reason why he doesn't want to know about Will is because it's I don't want us to bond and stuff like that, because eventually there's a chance that you will die. And Will's like, I'm never going to die, never. It's do you know any 60-year-old spies? No, I don't. You don't either. And he's like, because I don't want to have to know your parents' name, because that way I'm not obligated to talk to them when it's all said and done, and if something happens to you, so there's a reasoning behind it that you can kind of understand, because that's a heavy burden to kind of have to carry, and that means you care about someone. But it's as long as you have the distance, you don't have to worry about having to get close to someone. And because obviously in their line of work, they lose people all the time, and it's the last thing a spy needs is that kind of weighing down in their heart. So you need to kind of have a little callousness to it, which is interesting because obviously that's kind of how Jay and Frankie operate, but easily they are both changing because the walls they put up around their hearts are easily coming down because of this team, this family that's around them, and I really like that. But it also shows you how much everyone cares too, is because when it was all happening, obviously Frankie was upset with everyone, being the fact that you think does it make you feel better that I said that? Because it's I'm gonna give you a pep talk and stuff like that. Oh, you feel better now? And it's because, for her, obviously it shows you how much Will matters to all of them. I even love that little moment, when the truck got in the way and Standish is move, bitch! And you have Susan and Frankie saying, get out the way in unison. I'm like, that was just there for no reason. Side note, something else was crossing my mind too. There might be people who watch that episode who don't know what that's referencing. Obviously referencing the Ludacris song, but it's it's such an old song, which is weird to even say that that's an old song. That came out early 2000s. That was over a decade ago, which is wow. But it makes you wonder, there might be someone watching this show who might not know what that is. I mean, there might be people my same age who still probably might not know what that is. So it's just interesting. It's just a little reference. I'm like, why that particular reference? Why that? Why did he make a moment out of that? I don't mind. It was just kind of interesting. I was like, holy shit. I like that. Nevertheless, obviously this whole situation is taking its toll on the entire team, but Susan is like, the fact is, Standish knows you can do this. Like, he knows, you know, you can handle this situation, and Will does too. And so, because Frankie was kind of doubting herself, because she was like, I can't handle this whole, like, you know, because she was thinking like, no, I can handle the whole thing. But now when the time comes, obviously she's not being the supportive leader that she should be. And so I thought it was just kind of interesting to see that element of her character, obviously kind of showing her continuous growth of her trying to get better at it. It's like, right, I'm sorry. Fact of the matter is, let's, you know, try and make this work. You know, I have faith that you will get this done, kind of talking to Standish about, you know, trying to change everything so that it looks like the heart of the person that he's pretending to be, the heart he needs matches Will, so that way they can find out where Will is. I love that Susan knows all this stuff about his heart and his blood type and stuff like that. And it's like, and Standish just looking like, wow, you know a lot. And she's like, well, he's like, oh, you know all this stuff about him. And Susan's like, yeah, well, I am his emergency contact in case something happens. And Standish is like, that's cute. And she's like, yeah, well, I am his bestie. And she looks at Ray, and Ray kind of looks a little peeved off hearing that. He's like, yeah, sure, enjoy it while it lasts, Susan. I was his bestie first type of look. I love that. I love that they are both fighting for, you know, to be Will's bestie. That kind of comes up later on, but I'll get to that later. But I also love that it wasn't just all fun and games, that there was a real, like, heart-to-heart moment we had in this episode between Jay and Will, in the sense of Will's like, yeah, this is probably the one time I'm glad you did bug me. Because of that, you probably can't hear me, but I mean, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So the fact is, he ends up talking to him, and obviously, you know, Jay's kind of upset about hearing all this stuff about him, but then he gets into some real stuff. We end up finding out he's the youngest of three siblings, and of three children. We end up finding out that his older brother Kevin, his eldest brother Kevin, passed away in Afghanistan. And for him, it's like, I don't want to put my parents through that again. Like, that's why he's like, the thought of, like, missing another Christmas, it isn't for himself, it's for his family, because he's like, they already lost one child, I don't want to put them through that with another. And he's like, let them know if something does happen to me, at the end of the day, like, there are kids here, make sure you save them no matter what happens to me. And if, you know, when it comes to my parents, let them know that you were always on my mind, and I love that. And it's like, that moment is just like, oh my God, hitting you with the drama, with the feels, dude. And you can tell it's even affecting Jay. But I even love later on, he's still ranting on and on about other stuff. We had that heartfelt moment, and then we kind of swing back into the comedy, and Jay's like, we got to get you back so I can kill you myself. And fortunately, when it was all said and done, the team was able to get there in time to save Will. I even love that he kind of saved himself to a certain extent, because he ended up rolling off the table and injecting himself with the adrenaline, because after that paralytic was in the system. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, someone's going to come back in time and just stop him before he's able to. But I guess it was just enough in his system to kind of let him kind of act. And I love him being like, the guy's like, oh, you're bluffing. He's like, really? And he stands up and is like, oh, do you really think I'm bluffing? It's like, that took some sheer will, because you can tell, like, which is ironic, funny, Will, regardless. The fact is, he was, you know, obviously falling over afterwards, and just being like, holy crap, I can't, you know. So the paralytic was still in play there, but just the fact is, he was able to stand up even within the system. But I love, like, Standish is bringing up Will's pale ass, and when the situation comes down to it, Frankie was like, well, I didn't see it. And was like, no, I saw it. You were checking it. She's like, I totally wasn't checking it. I was like, yeah, you were. And the thing is, you saw what you liked. She's like, no, what? The fact that she was funny like that makes me think, like, yeah, she did see something, and then maybe there is some trick to it. She was kind of getting a little flustered, like, no, what are you talking about? I do love the little speech that she gave Standish, because, like, obviously things didn't work out when him trying to fight the guys, and he's like, I was pretty cute. And she's like, you're not very good at combat. But the fact of the matter is, you know, you will be given enough time. And the fact of the matter is, she's like, do what you can, scream, you know, distract someone. That's what you're good at. He's like, I can do that. And Susan's like, I'm so proud of you. And I love Frankie being like, shut up. I don't want to talk about it. And just like the positive and reinforcement that Susan's trying to instill in her. Just like, oh, look at you. You're so great. I just thought that was so neat. And, luckily, because of Standish, they were able to save the day. The dude had the grenade, and Standish, like, screamed, knocked it out of his hand, was like, yeah! And you know, it's like, yeah, you might want to find that pin for it. And, like, you have Frankie and Will backing away from him because of it. And then when it's all said and done, it's like they get back and, Standish is like, I appreciate the pep talk you gave me. Frankie's like, I always believed in you. And he's like, no, you didn't. She's like, you're right, I didn't. But the fact of the matter is we can get to training immediately, tomorrow and make sure that you are ready for the future. So I thought that was kind of neat. I also love that it's like, oh, Jay, you were paying attention. It's like, oh, we can bond. We're bonding and stuff like that. Isn't it great? And Jay's kind of like, okay, I'm leaving. He's like, come on, let's bond. I even love that him being like, the fact is of like, that's why we need to go on our walk and hike and stuff like that. I forgot the whole thing that Will was going into, but you can tell it's just annoying Jay, and I love it. I even love Ray being like, oh, I'm so glad you're back, but he's about to hug him, and Will's like, he's like, right, we're not there, but I'm glad you're back. He's like, maybe, at some point in time we can, hang out, do, like the, just us boys and, watch You've Got Mail. And Frankie's like, oh, okay, and kind of drags him away because he's like, yeah. And Frankie's like, yeah, because that's our movie, not yours and his. I'm like, I love that Ray gets so protective because for him it's like, because it feels like on one level he's losing his bestie to Susan and another level losing him to Frankie. I just love that whole situation. But it is kind of nice that when it was all said and done, Frankie has grown from this. And I love that Will's like, yeah, you did great. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, I owe this all to the person who kind of motivated me. And it's like, Will's like, you don't have to thank me. And she's like, thank you, Susan. And it's like, you're welcome. He's like, what? I'm the one to say it. It's like, she always believed in me. And Susan's like, yeah, I did. It's like, I literally said those exact same things. And she's like, no, I don't remember. And then you have Jay at the end of the episode getting back at Will. It's like, oh, you forced me to hear all that stuff about you for hours. You going on and on. Here I am. I'm getting back at you. It's like, oh, there's no stopping this, Will. I don't care if you're tired. The fact of the matter is, we've seen that Jay is vindictive. Everything, going on with him and Standish and about. It's like, obviously we know that Jay kind of holds a grudge and he will get back at someone. So I love that little moment. I mean, granted, Will got what he wanted, but it came at a price. So it was a really fun episode. Like, obviously, like I said, it had that very dramatic moment. It had, obviously, that's a part of this. It's not just a comedy. It is probably, like, I'm sure it's probably labeled as like a dramedy of like that comedy drama aspect to it, but still, a lot of fun aspects to this episode. So just a continuation of the growth of this group and just the family bond that they have, and I love it. So I'm very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.